From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of Evenings LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2021. In this recording tonight, we go over the incredible details of a deal not happening, at least not today. The recon may have looked like it was done yesterday or the day before with the President of the United States having a press conference and a binder and a breath mint, but it didn't happen then. So when is it happening? Great news. As the roads and bridges are blocked, and now Bernie Sanders says, we're adding more things to the recon. Whoa, yes, we are. Price tag 1.75, but more items will be added across the board. What are those items? And what else could those items be with 1.75 not etched in stone across the board? Then we go to programs in, programs are out. More programs could be added to the recon. In tonight's recording, you could be surprised which programs still have a life of day. Then we turn over to the incredible details of student loan debt. More debt could be forgiven by executive order. I have those details and more. And then we go into the big items of this stimulus coming around the corner. That is that COLA raise, but get ready for fifth stimulus right after that. It's a big evening. I'm very excited for you. The news cycle has changed in the last few hours. This recording different than afternoons at LA because now I have new comments in from AOC that I didn't have earlier on afternoons LA. I have new comments from Pramila in the last 2 hours, and I have new insight from the Treasury Secretary, who appeared on broadcast news and discussed both bodies of legislation and the recon of the roads and bridges. And the other thing different is that there's a time difference between now and Europe and Rome. And the beautiful thing is that if the recon is delayed, we can just blame it on the time of change between now and Italy. It's a beautiful evening, and we got incredible great news as the recon is not finished. Bernie represents more things are going in. I'm excited you're here. It's a big night, and guess what? They're working on the recon this weekend, and so will I. The details start right here as Evenings LA starts right now. Happy Halloween weekend, and boy, the recon may look like it's happening, but it's not done yet. Good news is that while the roads and bridges were blocked by Purple Power and the Progressives yesterday, and the price tag is about 1.75, there's more wiggle room for that recon price tag, and there's more wiggle room for programs in and programs out. Bernie, Nancy, and other people say they're adding provisions in to the recon. We're not done yet. This is great news across the board. Also big news is that more student loan debt could be happening. Though student loan debt is across the board, as 1, 2, 3 rounds could be forgiven, and more rounds could be forgiven as after that. Then COLA raise is coming across the board, and that is your fifth stimulus right behind it. That would raise your benefits up if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security and Railroad benefits. But in tonight's recording, I do something a little bit different. There has been so much happening about the recon in the last 2 days that we've been flying through the news cycles, and sometimes we leave something behind and forget what it is. I'm going to go back over some of the deal points because some of them are still at issue. Like a person who said, you cannot leave paid leave out because that was a president's promise. You cannot have this number reduced because this was a president's promise. I go over those promises, I go over the reaction, and we have breaking news tonight, a lot of it. And this is LA. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Let's go right into the details. Breaking right now is that the legislators are on recess, House and Senate, until Monday, but they're still working on the recon this weekend. The latest status on the recon, where it is, what it is, let me tell you right up in front where we are right now. The president had a press conference before going off to Rome, Italy, and made it look like the recon was done. It's not done. What he wanted to show was that there's unity about the recon. There's not unity about the recon. We have both a substantive and a procedural issue still in flux. Substantive, what's in the recon. Procedural, when does it get voted on? Where does it get voted on? I'm covering all that in this recording. And the great news tonight is that Bernie Sanders, Pelosi, even Josh Gothenheimer, the conservative Democrat, all say they're adding stuff into the recon. And Nancy even debuted a draft of the recon last night, 24 hours from before this recording, to a subcommittee called the House Rules Committee to fast track it to a House floor, and said, if you want to add stuff in there, you can add stuff in there. Yes, incredible, great news. Let's go over all the details of what this recon is. The recon will pay you about $15,000 as a viewer of this channel. Single, married, children, without children, senior, young, on disability, not on disability. It was passed in 3 clusters originally out of a subcommittee, 3.5 trillion. Tonight it's about 1.75, but those clusters still pay you those sums of money. Let's go over the clusters 1, 2, and 3, the 3 add-ons, and you're going to be surprised how many of them survived. With that $15,000 across the board that recon pays you, let's look at where it is and where it's broken apart across those clusters starting right now. Hazard pay and $4,000 of elder care both got in there. They got the hazard pay in there, but brought in the earned income tax credit from 1 more year, increasing the amount of money for those essential workers. They got the money in there for elder care through the aid that comes for seniors. That's coming up later in this video, and the $4,000 for young children's care. They got the Pell Grant made tax-free and increasing about $550 for the college students, and then the grants to the university and to the students themselves. And then they got the money in there for the home repairs if you live in a low-income community. They got that money in there, survived from that first cluster. Also surviving from the first cluster is the CTC, the child tax credit, broadened the eligibility for 1 year. That is $3,600 and $3,000 a child if you make $60,000 or less. And finally, the bikes, cars, and trucks, all electric, all U.S. auto manufacture, a sort of Obama-ish generation law. It's been on the books for many, many years, extended for another 10 years. 15% for the purchase price of a new electric vehicle, personal use, U.S. auto manufacturer, and then $7,500 if it is a car for personal use, a little bit more for business use. Wow. First cluster, nearly everything survived. Almost 100% survived in original format, but all the provisions survived. Let's go to the first add-on. And that may have survived, may have not survived, not particularly clear. It is the $25,000 for the purchase price of your first home, the Maxine Waters provision. It did not survive, wrong graphic, it did not survive at this price point, but it may have survived in a smaller price point, but it's part of the housing. And that's why it's a little confusing, because the housing did survive. Yes, housing is rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, home repairs, seen in the first cluster, coming up in the second cluster. So this provision may have survived as well, but not at $25,000. Let's go to the second cluster and let's see which items survived and which ones didn't survive. Here we go. Paid family leave, medical leave, out. Child care programs in there. Household tax credit survived. The pre-kindergarten survived. Tuition-free community college, out. And then the money for weatherizing your home. Wow, that weatherizing your home, it just weatherized the negotiations. They weatherized their homes to survive the negotiations. As I always say, whenever possible, weatherize your home before Halloween, because you never know if there's a trick-or-treater coming that looks like Mitch McConnell. And maybe it is Mitch McConnell. Just really want that Twinkies or the Tic Tac, don't you, Mitch? Don't answer the. You look in the. Oh, it's a trick or treat. Oh, it's a Mitch McConnell trick or treat. I don't know if I want to open the door. There you go. What is really important to understand is the verb tense mentioned in this video tonight, and I have to unfortunately repeat it every time I make the video, which is gone, out, in. Very confusing. Very, very confusing. Out at the time of this recording, not out permanently. In at the time of this recording, not confirmed in, because things are just disappearing. It's sort of like Smurfs are taking provisions from the recon out overnight and no one knows it. It's actually not a funny matter, because provisions are very important, are disappearing overnight and no one's owning where they went. It's not like Joe Manchin said, I took it out. No, it's not his fault. They're just disappearing. So in means in at the moment, out means out at the moment, does not mean a lifetime or permanent, and it doesn't mean that it won't get changed. All right, let's go to the second add-on. In, great news, Medicaid, which usually does not cover home health care for seniors and people on disabilities now will. And one of the disclosures I always make in this video is when I don't know something, I will say I don't know something. I'm not very clear on whether the provision is sliding into Medicaid or Medicare. I'm relying upon one broadcast media which may not have it right. But this is great news. This is a presidential campaign promise. It was proposed by Senator Bob Casey, wonderful senator from Delaware, at $250 billion. And it is going in there. And that $250 billion survived. Wow. Incredible details across the board. Oh, there it is. I thought I deleted it. Don't delete it if it's still in there. No, it's a survive. It won't be $250 billion. It will be a little bit less. Again, that's home health care, seniors, and people on disability. Incredible. Totally free, provided to the state. Let's go to the third cluster checks and let's see what survived and what didn't survive. And this has always been the battle royale. This has been the Game of Thrones cluster because it's always been a battleground. Free school meals for all survived. Cheaper prescription medication out. Free internet, don't know. Farmers, I think it's out, but we don't know. Clean energy, out. Workers, don't know. And then Medicare, let me tell you that on air, because that is super, super confusing. Medicare involves several provisions. The first one was extending it across 50 states. Everyone wanted to do it, and even Joe Manchin wanted to do it, but he didn't want the citizens of West Virginia to pick up the tab for the citizens of Texas that weren't going to pay for it because the governor doesn't want to pay for it, but he was going to still offer it in Texas to free to their citizens. So Raphael Warnock and also Jim Claiborne, Carolinas and Georgia, came up with a provision to make sure every state paid their fair share. Great news. So that got done. We do not know if the Medicare drop from 65 to 60 or 55, depending if you're Casey or Sanders, the drop in the eligibility age for Medicare, to start going on Medicare, got passed or no. I don't think it got passed because it sounds so important. You would hear it everywhere across the news. But, they're not very good on covering this. So I don't really know. I really don't know if it got in there. We do know that the dental, vision, and hearing status is hearing got in there with free hearing aids for people on Medicare. The dental did not get in there, and also the vision. More about that later. Which brings us to the third add-on, that monthly stimulus check. And this has a lot of new development details tonight. We have both the substantive issue of MSC, IRS stimulus check, and also the procedural element. Often I talk about just the procedural element. Tonight I want to talk about the substantive and the procedural. Substantively, we now have a lot of Democrats, not one, saying words like a major gap of the recon is existing, that there's a lot of things that are absolutely missing. I'm going to go over some of the quotes from top legislators who said you absolutely must have this in there. And they have not come back and say, I'm doing the recon now that those provisions are out. So it's very important because people are pushing to get things in there. This is a substantive issue. And MSC was a provision that was always going to be an add-on. So that brings us to the procedural question. When is it an add-on? Later in this video, stay with me. I got a lot coming up. You're seeing sort of the overview of the provisions. I'm going to go over the details of the provisions, how many years, when they're going, how they can pay for, and things like that coming up in a second. But one of the substantive issues, one of the procedural issues for the MSC that's new tonight is, are we calling the vote on the recon in the House first or the Senate first? And have the progressives made the determination yet? Will they make a determination? And who ultimately makes this determination for us if they don't? This is big because remember, we have different places where the MSC could be added in. We have a House draft of a bill in the subcommittee of the recon right now again. We've done this before. We had the package of the recon in that subcommittee passed several weeks ago. And then now we have a draft of what could be the recon bill with an HR already on it in the House Rules and Committee tonight. Nancy Pelosi has said to the senators and the House members, you want to add stuff across the board. Then those representatives like AOC Omar and Pramila, who have always said they're going to add it, should add it before there's a vote on the House side. Are they going to keep their promise? We shall see. Let's go to the senators. Donnie, who's a longtime viewer of this channel, been featured on this channel many, many times, he made the phone call to Chuck Schumer, Liz Warren, and another senator yesterday. And they said, once again, they're still added it in there. Big, huge developing detail. We've had Debbie Applegate, Donnie and his wife, and another view in the last 2 weeks. I'll get confirmation from Chuck Schumer. He's added it in there. Important to note when we're talking about this MSC is that the MSC votorama, or the votorama to add the MSC, the 2-day voting process in the Senate, that is the final place where you can make amendments, would happen whether the House votes first or votes second. That is very important across the board. And let's finally read that message from the top legislator to a viewer to this channel. His chief of staff writes this incredible message, which is to continue to advocate. And that message is that they now have, between the congressional senatorial offices, received more contacts of advocacy from the LA Purple Power than the number of signatures in the American petition. Everyone's amazed by the outpouring of touching stories. They have a better understanding of what the average American is going through. They have heartbreaking stories in the LA viewers, and now they have the voice of the people in ULA, as you have become too loud to be ignored. Very kind. Let's read the last sentence on air together because it concerns you and it concerns me. The last sentence is about advocacy. Please continue your encouragement for the continued advocacy as the professional voice of the people you have become, LA, and continue this until this becomes law. Very, very kind. And yes, it's very important because next week, people will be adding things to the recon. Your advocacy needs to step up, not time or place to wait for the votorama, time or place to start the advocacy today. As one longtime viewer of this channel, Jennifer, in the live chat this morning, like she did yesterday, said, how many times did you call this today to advocate for the inclusion? Absolutely have to do it. In the second half of this video, we have a lot coming up, and some of it brand new in the last 2 hours. First, a deal's happening, but it's not happening just yet. AOC reacts minutes ago to how you call the vote on the recon. This is a very confusing situation across the board because the roads and bridges is blocked. We got that. We understand that. That's the easy part of the question. The question is, where does the recon start and where does it end on the voting process? The price is right, but not particularly etched in stone. It could go higher. I have all those details as well. Programs in, programs out. I'm going to go over which programs in and which programs out because I know yesterday was a confusing mess. And we're going to see which programs have already been proposed to put back in that were removed. Student loan debt forgiveness, more debt could be forgiven, and then that COLA raise and all the fifth stimulus. We have all these incredible details and more as we go into the second half of this video. Are you strolling on the pier? Are you looking for the pretzel or the $12 ice cream? I'll be back with you in 60 seconds as a big Evenings LA continues. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now on Evenings LALATE as a deal will be happening, but the deal has not happened. Very different situation than we thought yesterday. Good news for us because more things are being added to the recon. Nothing is being taken out as we go forward. LA told you so. Block the vote, block the road worked. LA and the Purple Power and the Progressives successfully blocked the vote recon, blocked the vote on the roads and bridges yesterday. So what is next for that roads and bridges? But more importantly, when are they calling the vote on the recon. The price is right, 1.75, but could go even higher. The program's in, the program's out. Which programs are in and which programs are out? Student loan debt forgiveness. More debt could be forgiven across the board. I have the latest details on this as well. And then that colo raise. Yes, colo raise is heating up, and that is where we're going. On a big night when there is so much things happening across the board, we'll have all these incredible details and more. But what's important to understand as we go into a big evening is that the situation is still very fluid and will continue to be fluid. I'll have those incredible details and more as we go into a big evening. And this, my friends, is Evenings LALATE. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video to 3,000 likes and consider becoming a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Hour, Calcino VIP. Join me next on Evenings Countdown, which is right after this video. And then Stream Stimulus. You have a 3-hour binge viewing block of LA Tonight. 3 hours, consecutive videos. One takes you to the next. You don't have to do anything and just sit back and enjoy. And with that, let's go into the breaking news tonight, which started with Bernie Sanders, but continued with AOC. Bernie Sanders started us off today with the breaking news is that the recon has, quote, major gaps in it, end quote, and that he is still adding provisions in there. Yes. And then we have AOC. So let's lead with AOC because she's brand new tonight on Evenings LALATE. AOC and Jalapal with the new quotes tonight. AOC says, we have 98% of the caucus on the same page. We just need to figure out where these two folks, Manchin and Sinema, are willing to commit. And once we get real clarity on that, then it's a yes, then I think we'll be able to move forward. That was a quote from AOC about the voting process, the procedural question. Then Jalapal said everyone's in the room enthusiastically endorsing the resolution about the framework about what the president laid out. We intend to vote on both the bills of the recon and the roads and bridges in the House at the same time. More about that quote in a second. And then the president believes he has 50 votes in the Senate, and I think it's a lot for him to say that, meaning that she thinks it's a little bit of a reach. It is a reach. He doesn't have particularly 50 votes at the moment. The day started really well with Bernie Sanders saying there's, quote, major gaps in the recon. Let me go to the later part of the interview and conducted impromptu in the halls of the Senate with reporters. Bernie, very candid, very blunt, and very to the point. Let me cut with the second part of the interview, and then I'll go back to the first part. Are you going to support the recon written right now? Bernie, being respectful to the president, respectful to the Democratic Party, would not answer that question. He says, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to do my best to take a good bill and make it better. So I cannot answer that. Then the reporter came back with the question you would ask. So, Mr. Sanders, are you going to be adding provisions to the recon? Yes, of course. He says other provisions I didn't mention need to be added, like paid leave and medical leave and family leave. That's bad. But I'm glad that hearing aid is in there, but we need dental, vision, and prescription medication. It's unconscionable that we talk about higher prescription medication every year after year and we don't take care of it. So, what did he say early in the recording? Is that me? It is me. What did he say early in the recording? He said, LA kicked the court.
That's what he said. You know, it's one of those weekends. It's one of those days. He said early in the interview that it was very important to get the provisions at issue into this recon.
And the provisions at issue were really the prescription medication, and the other provisions. This is what Bernie said. He said this is the best bill we've had since the 1960s, but it has major gaps in it. The American people are sick and tired of being paid for higher prescription medication. There's no language in there dealing with higher prescription medication. I'm glad that they got hearing care in there, but the people want to cover dental and eyeglasses. Then, before the vote on the recon happens in the House, they need to have explicit language. And second of all, they need to make this good bill even better. Wow. So let's go over that substantive argument before we go over the procedural issue. Is Bernie adding stuff in? Yes. When is Bernie adding stuff in? Well, right now, this weekend. When is the House back in session? When is the Senate back in session? Monday. Is that when Bernie's going to add stuff in? Yes. Is it formally added in by Votorama? No. It's just part of the negotiations. I thought the negotiations were over. They're not over. You see how I'm sort of doing this Q&A? Because this is certainly the questions I would ask if I didn't understand the situation, but I do. The negotiations are not over. I know it looks strange. You saw the president appear in the White House with the mannequin behind him. Oh, that's the vice president. He just keeps on using her like a mannequin. I mean, you're going to just use that. Just get a cardboard cutout if that's the way you're going to treat her. Just not respectful to her whatsoever. But the president made it look like he had a deal, and it was etched in stone. Negotiations done. The negotiations are not done. So Pramila is confusing the situation by saying, we passed a resolution saying we love what you've done. Okay, I got it. But Pramila, Americans, when they see you say that, they think you're done, and you're not done. So don't confuse the situation. I didn't like her particularly doing that. So substantively, major gaps. How to fix it? Filling in the items that are missing that are major gaps. I think you're making a list of the things that are missing from this recon. Yeah. And who adds the items through major gaps? Well, negotiators like Bernie. And what does that mean? It means that negotiate, no change in the negotiations, then do it by Votorama. Negotiate, if there are changes, then they go in there before they finalize it for a House bill. More about that House bill in a second. Then we have the procedural part of the interview. You notice how I'm separated out? I like this better because there's one issue. When do you vote? How do you vote? That's procedural. The substantive issue is what's in there. What's in there is the big issue. And now let's go to the procedural issue. Do we have 50 senators supporting the recon, says Bernie Sanders. He does not know. So what he says is that later in the interview, he says members of the House will have to have assurances from, he doesn't say Sinema Manchin, but that's who he's referring to. Since day one, both of these bills have been linked, meaning the recon and the roads and bridges. We just don't want to see the infrastructure have a vote in the House until we have the Senate vote 50 votes in favor of the recon. I want to see the language approved. We're doing this bill. We haven't done this bill in many, many years. It's the best bill since 1960, but it still needs to be fixed. Okay, so this is really big. Let me explain to you what this means, because it's a little bit confusing. What Bernie is basically saying is you have two bodies in which legislation has to be passed, House and Senate. In the case of the roads and bridges, it's already passed the Senate. So it's just waiting for the House vote, meaning you call the House vote, right after this video. It's done. The recon has not had either bodies vote on it, either the Senate or the House. I know we did this recon procedural. This is the recon substantive. So the issue at hand is which goes first and where does it go first? This is why that AOC Omar Jalapal comments are interesting. Let's go over what are the options. The options are you vote on the recon in the House first, or you vote on the recon in the Senate first. The next part of the equation is you vote on the recon wherever it is before you vote on the roads and bridges. So here's the dichotomy of what's going on tonight, the good and the bad. The good is that tonight we have agreement from the progressives and from both House and Senate Democrats that there will not be a vote on the roads and bridges until there is a vote first on the recon. It took about 24 hours. It's different than last night. Last night we were trying to fight, block the vote, block the road. We successfully, Purple Power and the progressives, were able to stop the roads and bridges infrastructure from going from a vote in the House. Okay, that's happened. So then the next equation is, okay, where does the recon go? Well, moderate Democrats are trying to say, just agree upon the recon without a vote on the recon. Tonight, different. We nearly have 100% of all progressives saying the recon must go for a vote by bill format. Not we look at the text, we're fine with the text. Not Manchin and Sinema appear on CBS and ABC saying, here's the text, I'm fine with it. Literally, that Manchin and Sinema have to raise their hands on the Senate floor in a vote and say, I support the recon. So they're actually all saying we need a vote. Now, here is where it's different. Pramila, either she's not saying it clearly or she's not thinking it through clearly, is trying to say we need to have an agreement on the recon first before we do roads and bridges, but she doesn't say where. Here's the problem. We had always said that potentially the recon was going to start in the Senate first. Then it looked like the recon was just going to start in the House first. Why? Because Nancy is putting the recon into the subcommittee of the House. The House is the lead legislator. They're writing the language of it. It's in a subcommittee tonight called the House Rules Committee to fast track it out to a House floor vote. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with it. Out to a House floor vote, then what would that mean? The House would vote first. Does that help the situation? It doesn't hurt it, but it doesn't solve it. Let me explain this for the first time on Evenings LA tonight. You can call the vote on the recon in the House first, but you cannot then turn around and call the vote on the roads and bridges. You know why. Because a vote on the recon in the House doesn't solve the question of locking down a yes vote from Sinema and Manchin. The House vote on the recon is no assurance, no guarantee, no insurance about the situation that you have a passage of the recon in the Senate. So you absolutely have to have a passage of the recon in the Senate before you call a vote on the roads and bridges. So using that analysis, I know this is maybe a lot for you to digest, but let's recap it again, is that it's fine if you want to start the recon vote in the House, but you must also do a vote in the Senate before you do a vote on the roads and bridges. You can either do the vote in the Senate with the recon only or the House and the Senate. But you can't just do the House because that doesn't achieve anything. Because you're going to approve in the House, you're going to send over, you're going to then do the... It's one of those nights. You're going to do the recon you're going to do the roads and bridges in the House, and then both things are going to fall apart. That is why the notion of where things go first is very important. All right, now let's turn over to the reaction of the situation as we are tonight. And we're going to go over the programs as well. The programs and the reaction is very, very fluid. What is some of the comments coming in tonight? Ruben Galejo, Democrat from Arizona, says all they need is to do one simple thing to get a public announcement that they endorse it. People do not agree with Ruben Galejo, which is just a public announcement. No one's buying that as enough to lock down Sinema and Manchin. They want more than just a public acceptance of it. They want them literally voting on it. All right, let's go over the provisions of the recon. What's in and what's out tonight. Audio in and audio out. Mic in, out, mic out. Here we go. Remember, this is just where we are tonight. Situation very fluid. All right, here we go. Universal pre-kindergarten in for 1 year, 3 to 4 year olds. And you know what? I want to stop and just give a commentary here, which I know it doesn't belong, but I just want to say it. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who I adore, everyone loves her. She appeared on broadcast media today, and she said, transformative big changes to the universe for things like education totally free for pre-kindergarten. No. We heard that with Chris Coons yesterday. Transformative, lifetime, game-changing, generational. No, it's 1 year. It's 12 months. There's a program that's going to run for 1 year. So I got to tell you, even the people who are number one people in the equation, like Chris Coons, like Janet Yellen, don't know what's in the recon. They literally are misstating the provisions left and right. The pre-kindergarten is 1 year and then it's gone. It's not a generational lifetime changing. The CTC extended for 1 year. Again, she said this is going to take people out of poverty for the next 20 years. No, it's 1 year. It's $3,600 to $3,000 1 year. The earned income tax credit, 1 year. Again, described with this sort of sweeping, grandiose thing. It's 1 year. But great across the board. The home health care, wonderful. I don't know how long this one is. This one, I don't know how long it is. This is for individuals who are on disabilities and also seniors. Free home health care. I believe it's through Medicare, but I'm not positive. I'm relying upon broadcast media on this assurance. I don't know if they're right. The Medicare would be picking up hearing as totally free, which means Medicare would give you hearing aid totally free across the board. That is big. Medicare expansion, of course, across all the states. Then the climate,